In the infinite expanse of deep space, near the volatile mining colony on the asteroid belt of Xelion 5, Leo Carter meticulously adjusted the sensors of his one-man spacecraft. The stars beyond played spectator to his focused solitude. As an engineer for Earth's Interstellar Resources Exploration, IRE, Leo's mission was clear: survey and analyze mineral deposits crucial for Earth's burgeoning technology sectors. Yet, his routine expedition was about to veer into the unknown. "Leo, you picking up anything unusual on your scans?" The voice of Captain Harris crackled over the comm system, a hint of concern lacing his tone. Leo flicked through the data on his display, his brow furrowing. "Nothing yet, Cap. It's all quiet." "Wait a sec. What's this?" A sudden blip appeared, growing steadily on his radar, its approach silent but alarmingly fast. "Possible meteorite? Adjust your course, Leo. Safety first," Harris advised, his voice now all business. "Doesn't seem like any meteor I've ever seen," Leo muttered, adjusting his instruments for a better read. Before he could react further, a sleek, metallic ship of immense proportions uncloaked right before his eyes, its design unlike anything known to human engineers. "This is no rock, Cap. It's a ship, and it's huge. Looks like—" Leo's words trailed off as a beam of light shot from the ship, encircling his craft in a grip of energy he couldn't escape. "Leo, report. What's happening?" Harris demanded urgently. "I'm being pulled in by some kind of tractor beam. It's not human, Cap. I think it's them. The Zolthers." His heart raced as the alien ship drew him closer into its gaping bay doors. Inside the alien ship, Leo's craft landed with a soft thud. The silence that followed was eerie. Doors hissed open and a trio of tall, armored beings entered. Their skin shimmered with a metallic sheen, eyes glowing softly under their helmets. "Greetings, human. I am Commander Zorvak of the Zolthar fleet. You will come with us." The leader's translator device converted his guttural tones into choppy English. Leo, hands raised, nodded slowly, stepping out into the unknown. "Where are you taking me? What do you want from a simple engineer?" "To our commander. Your skills are required." Zorvak gestured for him to follow, and despite every instinct screaming inside him, Leo complied, curiosity edging out his fear. As they walked through the corridors of the ship, Leo couldn't help but marvel at the alien technology surrounding him. It was both intimidating and fascinating. The Zolthers spoke little, but their escort was courteous, if formal. Finally, they entered a vast chamber where a female Zolthar stood. Her presence was commanding, and her gaze bore into Leo with an intensity that made him feel like she was peering into his very soul. "I am Zara, chief engineer of this fleet," she introduced herself, her voice smooth and more human-like than her companions. "You have been brought here not as a prisoner, but as a guest. We have much to discuss." Leo looked between Zorvak and Zara, a mix of apprehension and intrigue brewing within. "If it's about sharing knowledge, then I'm willing to talk. But I work best knowing my colleagues' intentions are clear." Zara smiled slightly, a gesture that seemed both peculiar and pleasing on her alien features. "Then let us begin, Leo Carter, by understanding each other." As the dialogue continued, Leo realized that this unexpected detour might just be the beginning of something far greater than a simple mining mission. Leo followed Zara through the sleek corridors of the alien ship, his senses assaulted by the strange and complex technology that lined the walls. Every device, every panel seemed alive, pulsing with an energy he could barely comprehend. They entered a room bustling with activity, where various alien engineers were absorbed in their tasks, their tools humming softly. "This is our main engineering bay," Zara explained, gesturing broadly. "Here is where we solve problems that ensure the survival of our fleet and enhance our capabilities." Leo watched in awe as a Zolthar engineer manipulated a holographic interface with swift, precise movements. "Incredible," he breathed. "Your tech is beyond anything we have on Earth." Zara nodded, her eyes bright with pride. "And yet, we believe you have insights that might be beneficial to us as well. Your unique human perspective on engineering could offer new solutions." Before Leo could respond, A door slid open and another human stepped through. Tall, with an air of rugged experience. The man extended his hand. Name's Mike Reynolds. I'm the liaison officer for Earth's Interstellar Alliance. Seems you and I are in a similar boat, Leo. Mike, heard your voice over the comm, but didn't expect to meet like this, Leo replied, shaking his hand warmly. Glad to see a familiar face. Zara motioned for them to follow her to a workstation where intricate schematics glowed. We are currently working on enhancing our propulsion systems. Perhaps, Leo, you can offer some insights here with Mike's assistance. Leo leaned in, studying the diagrams closely. You're using quantum entanglement for faster-than-light travel? We've theorized it, but it's not practical yet for us. Mike chimed in. Maybe we can bridge that gap. Combine our theoretical work with your practical applications. As they discussed, a Zolthar male approached the group. He was introduced by Zara as Chkar, another engineer. I have heard much about human ingenuity, Chkar said, his voice tinged with curiosity. I am eager to see it in action. Together, the trio examined the propulsion system, exchanging ideas and theories. Leo suggested a modification to the quantum stabilizers that could potentially increase efficiency without compromising safety. Let's prototype it, Zara decided. Her decision met with nods of approval from her team. The next hours were a blur of collaborative work, with Leo and Mike working side by side with Chkar and other Zolthar engineers. As they worked, Leo couldn't help but feel a sense of camaraderie, a bond forming not just through shared goals, but through the universal language of engineering. They laughed over failed tests, debated over theoretical models, and celebrated small successes. Your idea is working, Leo, Chkar exclaimed as the new module powered up successfully. The efficiency has improved by 17%. That's teamwork, Mike said, clapping Leo on the back. Looks like they really needed your human touch here. As the day shifted into the evening cycle aboard the ship, Zara invited Leo and Mike to join her for a meal. Over exotic dishes that tested their taste buds, they discussed not just technology but their cultures, their worlds. We are not so different, you and I, Zara mused as she shared a story of her home planet. Both our peoples strive for betterment, face challenges head-on. True, Leo agreed, his mind still reeling from the day's events. Today was proof that when diverse minds come together, the possibilities are endless. As they returned to the engineering bay, Leo felt a renewed sense of purpose. This unexpected journey might have started with his capture, but it was unfolding into a profound exchange of knowledge and respect. As the stars outside the viewport streaked by, Leo knew he was part of something much bigger than himself. Something not just about survival, but about mutual growth and understanding. The hum of the Zolthar engineering bay surrounded Leo as he studied the holographic display in front of him. His human brain struggled to fully grasp the alien symbols and structures, but he couldn't deny the elegance of their design. Zara stood beside him, explaining the intricacies of their propulsion systems, her voice calm and measured. This sequence, she pointed to a glowing set of symbols, controls the stabilization during quantum acceleration. The adjustments you proposed earlier could potentially destabilize this framework. Leo scratched his chin, leaning closer. That's because your system assumes constant input from these, stabilizers here. He gestured to a portion of the schematic. But what if you let the output fluctuate slightly? It'd give the quantum field some flexibility. Zara tilted her head, her metallic features catching the soft glow of the display. Interesting. Our models prioritize rigidity for safety, but you're suggesting controlled variability. Mike Reynolds, sitting across from them and fiddling with a piece of alien tech, chimed in. That's how we do it on Earth. Stability through adaptability. Works for our spacecraft. Chkar, standing nearby, frowned as he observed the exchange. You humans take unnecessary risks. Flexibility could lead to catastrophic failure. Leo glanced at Chkar, meeting his skeptical gaze. Or it could save your fleet a ton of energy and improve performance. Look, it's not about throwing caution to the wind. It's about understanding the system's limits and working within them. Zara raised a hand, silencing Chkar before he could argue further. Let's run the simulation. If it works, it works. If not, we'll refine it. As the Zolthar engineers prepared the system for testing, Leo turned to Mike. You think this'll work? Mike grinned. If you don't blow up the simulation chamber, I'd call it a win. Leo smirked. Helpful as always. The simulation began, and the team gathered around the central console. Data streamed across the screen, symbols flashing and morphing as the system adjusted to Leo's modifications. At first, everything seemed stable, but then a sudden spike in energy caused the system to flash red. See, Chkar said, crossing his arms. Unstable. Wait. Leo pointed to the screen. Look, the system's compensating. Give it a second. Sure enough, the energy levels began to even out. The flashing red turned to green, and the simulation stabilized. The display showed a marked improvement in efficiency. It worked, Zara said, her voice betraying a hint of admiration. She turned to Leo. Your understanding of adaptability is unique. Unique is just a polite way of saying reckless, Chkar muttered. Leo laughed, clapping Chkar on the shoulder. Hey! Recklessness gets results sometimes. The room filled with the buzz of engineers analyzing the successful test. Zara watched Leo and Mike as they exchanged ideas for further modifications, her expression thoughtful. Later, as the engineers dispersed, Zara approached Leo. Your methods are unconventional, but they have merit. I'd like to understand more about your approach. Sure, Leo replied, but it's a two-way street. Your tech is light years ahead of ours. I'm learning just as much from you. Zara nodded, then hesitated for a moment. Perhaps we could collaborate more directly. I've noticed your difficulties with our language and systems. I could help you understand them better. Are you offering to be my teacher? Leo teased, grinning. In a manner of speaking, Zara said, tilting her head. And perhaps you can teach me more about human engineering in return. Leo extended a hand. Deal. Zara stared at his hand for a moment, then clasped it briefly. Her touch was cool, her skin smooth and metallic. Leo found himself oddly fascinated by the sensation. Over the next several days, their collaboration deepened. Zara introduced Leo to a translator device that could adapt to their respective languages, and together they began refining it to facilitate smoother communication. Mike often joined their sessions, providing his own insights and occasionally acting as a bridge when cultural misunderstandings arose. So, what's Earth like? Zara asked one evening as they worked late in the engineering bay. Leo paused, glancing at her. It's chaotic, but beautiful. We've got oceans, mountains, forests, a lot of diversity. What about your homeworld? Zara's expression softened. Zalera is structured. Every aspect of our environment is optimized for efficiency. It is beautiful in its own way, but perhaps lacking in the variety you describe. Sounds peaceful, Mike said, leaning back in his chair. But I think I'd miss the unpredictability of Earth. Zara studied them both. Your unpredictability is what makes you different. It is not something we fully understand, but it intrigues me. As they continued working, Leo noticed how Zara's demeanor had shifted since their first meeting. She was less formal, her tone more conversational. He also realized how much he enjoyed their discussions, not just about engineering, but about life, culture, and the little quirks that made their species unique. You know, Leo said, leaning back and stretching. If we keep this up, we might just create something neither humans nor Zolthars could have made alone. Zara looked at him, her metallic eyes reflecting the glow of the holographic display. Perhaps that is the purpose of this unexpected alliance. Mike chuckled. And here I thought I'd just be stuck here as a glorified translator. You two are making me look bad. Leo grinned. Don't worry, Mike. We'll give you credit in the history books. As the three of them shared a laugh, the faint hum of the engineering bay seemed to fade into the background. They were no longer just humans and aliens, captors and captives. They were a team, united by curiosity and a shared goal. And as they worked together late into the night, Leo couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning of something extraordinary. The steady hum of the Zolthar engineering bay was beginning to feel familiar, almost comforting. Leo leaned over a console, deep in conversation with Zara and Mike as they reviewed the latest round of tests. Holographic schematics hovered in mid-air, flickering slightly as the system adjusted to the changes Leo had suggested. "You see here," Leo said, pointing at a highlighted section of the projection, "if we reroute the energy through these conduits, we can reduce the load on the main quantum stabilizers. Less strain means a more consistent flow." Zara studied the projection, her metallic skin catching the light. "Interesting. Your logic assumes the conduits can handle the increased energy. Chkar believes they would overheat under such conditions." "Well," Leo said with a wry smile, "Chkar's right, if we don't reinforce them. That's why I suggested adding those thermal buffers we talked about." "Those thermal buffers are just an idea right now," Mike interjected, arms crossed as he leaned against the console. "We haven't tested them yet." "Then let's test them," Leo replied, turning to Zara. "What do you think?" She nodded slowly. "It's a reasonable approach. Chkar can help with the testing. I'll give him the necessary resources." As Zara stepped away to coordinate with the rest of the engineering team, Leo glanced at Mike. "So, what do you think?" "Too ambitious." Mike shrugged. "Ambitious, sure, but that's not necessarily bad. Just be ready to fix it if it blows up in your face." Leo chuckled. "Always the optimist. Just saying, man. I've seen too many projects go sideways when people push the envelope without a backup plan." Leo held up his hands. "Fair point. That's why we're testing." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Chkar, who looked as skeptical as ever. "Carter," he said, addressing Leo directly, "your ideas are unconventional. Is that Zolthar for 'I don't like your plan'?" Leo asked, raising an eyebrow. "It is Zolthar for 'I need more proof'," Chkar said. "I will assist with the testing, but if this fails." "If it fails, I'll take full responsibility," Leo said firmly. "But if it works, it'll be worth it." Chkar nodded, though his expression remained dubious. "Very well. I will oversee the test. But I suggest you have another plan ready, just in case." "Noted," Leo replied. "Let's get started." Over the next few hours, the team worked together to integrate the thermal buffers and prepare the conduits for the increased load. The bay was a hive of activity, with Zolthar engineers and human specialists moving back and forth between stations. Leo and Mike stayed at the central console, monitoring the progress and exchanging ideas on how to handle any potential issues. "Okay," Mike said after a while. "Everything's set. What's next?" "Let's fire it up," Leo replied. He looked over at Zara, who had returned to oversee the final stages. "Are we ready?" "We are," she confirmed. "Proceed when ready." Leo keyed in the final commands, and the holographic display showed the energy levels rising as the system activated. For a moment, everything seemed to be running smoothly. Then a warning light began to flash. "Overload on Conduit 3, Chkar reported, his voice sharp. "Shutting it down before it fails completely." "No," Leo said quickly. "Let it run. The buffer should stabilize it." "Carter, that's a risk," Chkar said. "Trust me," Leo insisted. "Just give it another few seconds." The warning light flickered, then went dark. The energy levels stabilized, and the projection showed a marked improvement in efficiency. "It worked," Zara said, her voice calm but tinged with satisfaction. The buffer absorbed the excess energy and stabilized the system. "Nice call, Leo," Mike said, clapping him on the back. "Looks like your crazy idea paid off." Chkar crossed his arms, but his tone was less combative than before. "It seems I was mistaken. This approach is effective." "Thanks, Chkar," Leo said with a small smile. "I appreciate the vote of confidence." As the team began to analyze the results, Zara stepped closer to Leo. "Your methods are unconventional, but you have shown that they can work. I am impressed." "Thanks," Leo said, meeting her gaze. "I'm just trying to find solutions. Same as you." Their eyes lingered on each other for a moment before Zara nodded and turned back to the console. Leo felt a faint warmth rise to his cheeks, but he quickly refocused on the work at hand. Later, as the bay settled into a quieter rhythm, Leo and Mike found themselves sitting at a workstation, discussing the day's events. "You and Zara seem to be getting along pretty well," Mike said, a sly grin on his face. "Don't start," Leo replied, shaking his head. "We're just working together." Sure, Mike said, holding up his hands. "I'm just saying you've got a knack for making connections." "Connections are good," Leo said, glancing across the bay at Zara as she talked with Chkar. "Especially out here. We've got to stick together if we're going to make this work." Mike nodded. "Yeah, you're right. Let's keep it that way." The quiet hum of the Zolthar ship was shattered by a sudden, jarring alarm. Red lights flashed in the corridors, and the steady vibration of the engines faltered. Leo jolted awake in his quarters, heart pounding, as the ship shuddered beneath him. "What now?" he muttered, throwing on his boots and grabbing his comm unit. Before he could call anyone, Mike's voice buzzed through the channel. "Leo, you up? Engineering's a mess. We've got to get down there." "I'm on it," Leo said, already sprinting toward the bay. The corridors were alive with activity, Zolthar crew members rushing past him, their metallic skin gleaming under the emergency lights. When Leo arrived, he found Zara standing at the central console, her normally calm expression tight with frustration. Chkar was at her side, gesturing angrily at a monitor. The holographic displays flickered erratically, and a faint smell of burning circuits hung in the air. "What happened?" Leo asked, approaching quickly. "Systems failure in propulsion and life support circuits," Zara said without looking up. "Multiple redundancies have been compromised." Chkar turned to him, his tone sharp. "Convenient that this happens after your modifications, human." Leo blinked, taken aback. "Hold on a second. We tested those modifications thoroughly. If they failed, it wasn't because we didn't do our due diligence." "Then how do you explain this?" Chkar demanded, pointing at the flickering displays. "Two critical systems fail simultaneously, just days after your alterations?" "Stop," Zara interrupted, holding up her hand. "Accusations won't solve the problem. Leo, Mike, help me pinpoint the source of the failure." Leo stepped up to the console, scanning the data alongside Zara. Mike leaned over his shoulder, muttering, "Looks like a cascade fault, but wait, look here. This isn't random." "What are you seeing?" Zara asked, her tone tense but controlled. Mike tapped the display, highlighting a series of anomalies. "These aren't normal errors. Someone tampered with the code." "Tampered?" Zara's metallic eyes narrowed. "Yeah," Leo agreed, his stomach sinking. "This wasn't a system failure. It's sabotage." Chkar stiffened. "Are you implying one of us would sabotage our own vessel?" "Not one of us. One of you." Chkar shot back, glaring at Leo. "Chkar, enough," Zara said sharply. "Until we have proof, no one is to be blamed. Focus on fixing the damage first. We'll deal with the cause later." Leo nodded, grateful for Zara's even-handed approach. "We need to isolate the affected systems and reroute critical functions before the entire ship shuts down." "Agreed," Zara said. "Mike, assist Chkar with the reroutes. Leo, help me stabilize propulsion." They split into teams, tension crackling in the air. Leo worked closely with Zara, their hands moving swiftly across the console as they brought the propulsion system back online. Every now and then, their fingers brushed as they reached for the same controls, and despite the gravity of the situation, Leo couldn't help but notice the warmth of her presence beside him. "Propulsion is stable," Zara announced after a tense few minutes. "Good work, Leo." "Thanks," he said, breathing a little easier. "But we still need to figure out who did this. We can't let it happen again." "I know," she replied, her voice quiet. "I'll run an internal security scan. If there is a saboteur, we will find them." By the time the systems were fully restored, the ship was calm again, though the undercurrent of unease remained. Zara called a meeting of the engineering team in a private chamber, away from the main bay. Chkar, Leo, Mike, and a few other senior engineers gathered around a circular table, the air heavy with suspicion. "I've reviewed the security logs," Zara began. "There was unauthorized access to the propulsion and life support systems shortly before the failure. Someone within this team is responsible." "Not necessarily," Mike interjected. "What if it was someone outside engineering? They could have covered their tracks to make it look like one of us." Chkar frowned. "And why would they do that?" "To sow discord," Leo suggested. "If we're at each other's throats, we can't function as a unit. Maybe that's the real goal." "Possible," Zara said thoughtfully. "But until we have concrete evidence, we must proceed carefully." The discussion grew heated, with Chkar and Mike trading theories and suspicions. Leo remained focused, scanning through the logs on his personal console, looking for any clue that might reveal the saboteur's identity. After an hour of tense deliberation, Zara dismissed the group. "We will continue the investigation. In the meantime, double-check all systems and maintain heightened security." As the team dispersed, Zara caught Leo's arm. "Walk with me," she said. He followed her into the quiet corridor, the silence a welcome reprieve from the earlier chaos. They walked side by side, the faint glow of the ship's walls illuminating their path. "I don't believe you're responsible for this," Zara said after a long pause. "Your actions have shown your commitment to improving our systems, not sabotaging them." "Thanks," Leo said, meeting her gaze. "I didn't come here to cause trouble. I just want to help." She nodded. "I will ensure the investigation is fair. But we must remain cautious. Whoever did this may try again." "I'll do whatever it takes to help," Leo said earnestly. "You can count on me." Zara's expression softened. "I know." They stood in silence for a moment longer before Zara turned and walked away, her metallic frame glinting in the dim light. Leo watched her go, the weight of suspicion and the complexity of their situation pressing down on him. He knew this was far from over, and that they would need to trust each other more than ever to uncover the truth. Leo's mind churned with thoughts as he reviewed the propulsion data. The sabotage incident still loomed over them, but for now the system was stable. That stability, however, wouldn't last forever. They needed a permanent solution, something that wouldn't just patch the damage but make the fleet stronger and more efficient overall. He tapped the side of the console. "Mike, come over here. I've got something." Mike looked up from a stack of data tablets and crossed the engineering bay to join him. "What now, Carter?" "I've been thinking. If we rework the entire power distribution grid using their energy absorption tech, we can reduce the load across all primary systems. That includes propulsion, life support, and weaponry. It would eliminate the bottlenecks that made us vulnerable to that last attack." Mike gave a low whistle. "Sounds ambitious. You're talking about an overhaul, not a tweak." "Exactly," Leo said, enthusiasm growing. "I know it's a big project, but we can pull it off if we can get Zara on board." "And what about Chkar?" "You know he's going to push back on anything that comes from us." "I'm counting on it," Leo said with a grin. "He'll argue, but he'll also force us to think critically. We need that, and if we get Zara on our side, Chkar will fall in line." Mike scratched the back of his head. "You really think we can convince her?" "I've already got some numbers to show her. She's pragmatic. If we can prove this will make her ship more efficient, she'll listen." As if summoned by their conversation, Zara entered the bay. Her metallic frame moved gracefully, her posture as sharp as her mind. She approached the two men, giving them a curious look. "You appear to be deep in discussion," she said. "Is there something I should know?" Leo stood and motioned toward the schematic hovering above the console. "Zara, I have an idea. A big one. It's not just about fixing what's broken. It's about making your fleet better, stronger. We rework the power grid to handle stress more evenly, eliminate bottlenecks, and increase efficiency across the board." Zara tilted her head, her metallic eyes narrowing. "That is a significant undertaking. It would require considerable resources and time. What makes you believe it will work?" "I've run the calculations," Leo said. pulling up several screens of data. And I've tested it on a smaller scale back on Earth. With your technology, the potential improvements are even greater. Zara studied the data intently, her expression unreadable. This is bold, Leo. A complete overhaul could disrupt our operations if it fails. Then let's test it on a smaller subsystem first, Leo suggested. We start with non-critical systems. If it works there, we scale up. Low risk, high reward. Zara glanced at Mike. And you agree with this plan? Mike held up his hands. I think it's worth a shot. I've seen Leo's ideas pay off before. Besides, you've got nothing to lose if we start small. After a moment of contemplation, Zara gave a slow nod. Very well. Propose a detailed plan for the first test. I will review it with Chkar. If the preliminary results are promising, we'll proceed. Leo grinned. Thank you. You won't regret this. The three of them spent the next several hours drafting the test proposal. Zara's analytical mind challenged Leo's concepts at every turn, and Mike's practical insights helped refine the approach. By the time they presented the plan to Chkar, it was airtight. As expected, Chkar was skeptical. You're asking me to divert resources from essential tasks for an unproven experiment. It's not unproven, Leo countered. We've got the data right here. You have data from human systems, Chkar said, his tone sharp. Our technology is far more advanced. Which is exactly why this will work, Leo said, meeting Chkar's gaze. Your systems can handle the changes better than anything we've got back home. Let's stop thinking of this as human versus Zolthar and start thinking of it as what's best for the fleet. Chkar crossed his arms, studying the proposal in silence. Finally, he looked to Zara. You're confident in this? I am confident in the logic behind the plan, Zara said. But confidence is not enough. That is why we start small. If it fails, the damage is minimal. After another long pause, Chkar sighed. Very well. Proceed. But I will oversee the implementation personally. Fine by me, Leo said. The more eyes, the better. The team set to work, each member taking on a specific role. Leo handled the integration of the new grid components, Mike coordinated with the Zolthar engineers, and Zara monitored the entire process, ensuring that every step was meticulously documented. As the first test approached, the mood in the engineering bay was a mix of anticipation and tension. Zara pulled Leo aside. Are you certain this will work? Honestly, Leo said. No one's ever certain when they try something new, but the numbers are solid, and the team is ready. We've got this. She studied him for a long moment before giving a faint smile. You have a way of making the uncertain seem possible. Just doing my job, Leo said, returning her smile. When the time came, the system hummed to life. The modifications worked exactly as intended, the power distribution smoothing out the previous bottlenecks. The results were immediate, energy efficiency improved by 20%, and the load on critical systems decreased significantly. Mike gave Leo a thumbs up. Nice work. Thanks, Leo said. But this is just the first step. Let's see what Zara and Chkar have to say. Zara reviewed the results with Chkar, her expression one of quiet satisfaction. It appears your approach has merit, she said to Leo. I will recommend we expand the changes to additional systems. Chkar nodded reluctantly. Your ideas are unconventional, but effective. Appreciate it, Leo said. Now, let's get to work scaling this up. As the team moved forward, the initial skepticism began to fade. Together, humans and Zolthars pushed the fleet's capabilities further than ever before, proving that when they worked as one, there was no limit to what they could achieve. The Zolthar flagship orbited above the distant colony, its metallic hull gleaming under the light of a foreign sun. Below, the planet's surface was a sprawling mix of deep blue oceans and scattered islands. It was here that the Zolthar fleet had agreed to assist in a critical resource extraction mission, one that could benefit both their species and humanity. For Leo and the engineering team, it was the perfect proving ground for the new power grid they'd developed. Standing in the engineering bay, Leo adjusted his headset and looked across the room. Mike was hunched over a console, scanning energy readouts, while Zara and Shkar conversed quietly near the propulsion controls. "So, what's the plan?" Mike asked, turning to Leo. "Simple," Leo replied. "We oversee the energy transfer from the planet's surface, make sure the new grid handles the load, and get out of here without any hiccups." "Famous last words," Mike muttered. Before Leo could respond, Zara approached, her metallic eyes focused and intense. "The planetary extraction teams are ready. They'll begin siphoning the geothermal energy from the ocean vents as soon as we give the go-ahead." "And we're ready up here," Leo said. "I'll be monitoring the flow from the main station. Shkar and I will be stationed at the secondary conduits," Zara added. "We need to ensure that no sections become overloaded." "Got it," Leo said, his tone professional. "Let's get started." The operation began smoothly. Energy readings steadily increased as the planet's geothermal resources were tapped, flowing up to the Zolthar ship. The upgraded power grid performed exactly as designed, distributing the load evenly. Leo watched the numbers rise, his confidence growing with each passing minute. "This is going too well," Mike said from his station. "Something's bound to go wrong." "Don't jinx it," Leo warned, though he couldn't help but smile. "For once, let's just enjoy a mission that—" A sharp alarm cut him off. The lights in the engineering bay flickered, and the holographic displays glitched. "What now?" Leo said, his heart sinking. Zara's voice came over the comm. "The primary conduit is destabilizing. Energy levels are spiking beyond predicted limits." "Cut the flow," Leo replied immediately. "Shut down the main line and divert to the secondary conduits." "It's not responding," Shkar said from another console. "The failsafe isn't engaging." Leo jumped to the console, his fingers flying across the controls. "We need to stabilize the input manually. Mike, help me reroute the flow." As Mike moved to assist, another alarm sounded, and the ship shuddered slightly. Zara's voice was calm but urgent. "The energy surge is causing feedback in the propulsion systems. If this continues, it could cascade into the core." "Not on my watch," Leo muttered. "Zara, can you handle the propulsion system? Mike and I will focus on stabilizing the main line." "Understood," Zara said. "I'll coordinate with Shkar to keep the core secure." With Zara and Shkar working on the propulsion side, Leo and Mike threw themselves into the task of rebalancing the power grid. The readings on the screen were chaotic, energy levels spiked unpredictably, and the system was straining to keep up. "Leo, we've got a serious problem here," Mike said. "The feedback loop is growing. If we don't stop it now, we're looking at a full-blown core overload." "I know," Leo replied, sweat beading on his forehead. "We need to isolate the main conduit completely, but we'll lose a ton of power if we do that." "Better to lose power than the ship," Mike said. Leo hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "You're right. Okay, initiating full isolation. Hang on." The console flared red as Leo executed the command. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. For a few agonizing seconds, the alarms continued blaring, and then suddenly they stopped. The lights steadied, and the readouts returned to normal. "We're stable," Leo said, exhaling deeply. "But we're running on minimal power now." "Zara, how's it looking on your end?" "We've contained the feedback," Zara replied. "Propulsion is holding steady." "Good," Leo said. "Let's regroup and figure out what caused this." Later, in the debriefing room, the team gathered around a central table. Zara stood at the head, flanked by Shkar on one side and Leo on the other. Mike leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "This was not a random failure," Zara said, her tone serious. "Preliminary analysis suggests that someone tampered with the energy control protocols." "Sabotage?" Shkar asked, his metallic skin gleaming under the room's lights. "Possibly," Zara replied. "But we need more evidence before drawing conclusions." Leo frowned, his mind racing. "If this was sabotage, we need to find out who's behind it and why. We can't let them compromise another mission." "Agreed," Zara said. "For now, we'll maintain heightened security and review all system logs." The team discussed next steps, their resolve clear. Despite the setback, the successful containment of the crisis had proven the effectiveness of the new power grid, even under extreme conditions. As they left the room, Leo felt a renewed sense of determination. They had faced the fire and come through it together. Now they just had to find out who had lit the match. Back on Earth, the Zolthar flagship hovered above the sprawling cityscape of New Terra, casting its sleek shadow over the human capital. The once skeptical public now gathered in crowds, staring up at the alien ship with curiosity and cautious hope. The events of the past months had led to an unprecedented alliance, and Leo Carter stood at the heart of it. In the central chamber of the Zolthar flagship, Leo and Zara were finalizing the last adjustments to the combined Earth-Zolthar energy grid. This joint project, born out of necessity and collaboration, had grown into something far greater than anyone had anticipated. Standing nearby, Mike and Chkar watched the proceedings, their once tense partnership now replaced by mutual respect. "I never thought I'd see the day," Mike said quietly to Chkar. "Us working together like this." "Neither did I," Chkar replied, his tone no longer sharp but contemplative. "But it seems we have learned much from each other." As Leo and Zara finished their work, Zara turned to him. "The integration is complete. Our combined technologies should now be stable and reliable." "Good," Leo said, wiping his brow. "Now we just have to present it to the council." Zara's metallic features softened slightly. "You have a way of convincing people, Leo. I have no doubt they will see the value in what we have achieved." He glanced at her, smiling faintly. "Thanks. I couldn't have done it without you, and everyone else who pitched in." The council meeting took place on the surface in New Terra's Grand Assembly Hall. Representatives from both Earth and the Zolthar fleet filled the chamber, their faces a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. Leo stood at the front alongside Zara, Mike, and Chkar. The room quieted as Leo stepped forward to speak. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady, "today marks a new chapter for both our civilizations. We've faced challenges together, learned from each other, and built something neither of us could have done alone." He gestured to Zara, who nodded and continued. "This integrated energy grid is not just a technical achievement. It's a foundation for further collaboration. By combining our strengths, we can ensure stability, progress, and mutual growth." The room buzzed with murmurs, but Leo could see the positive reactions spreading through the audience. He felt a surge of pride, not just in what they had built, but in the relationships that had formed along the way. After the presentation, as the council deliberated, Leo stepped out into the hallway with Mike and Zara. "Well," Mike said, crossing his arms, "that went better than expected." "Agreed," Zara said, her voice calm. "But their final decision will be the true measure of success." "I think they'll approve it," Leo said. "They can't deny the results." Chkar joined them, his expression uncharacteristically relaxed. "You have proven your point. Even I cannot argue against the benefits of this alliance." "Thanks, Chkar," Leo said, surprised but grateful for the endorsement. As they waited for the council's decision, Leo found himself standing by the massive viewport, gazing out at the planet below. Zara approached quietly, her presence calming. "Are you worried?" she asked. "Not really," he admitted. "Just thinking about how far we've come. I never thought I'd be standing here, looking down at Earth from a Zolthar ship. Nor did I think I would be standing beside a human, looking out at your world," Zara said. "It is remarkable." They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of recent events settling over them. Then Zara turned to him, her metallic eyes reflecting the faint glow of the stars. "Leo," she said softly, "you have been more than a colleague. You have shown courage, creativity, and..." Before she could finish, the sound of applause echoed from the chamber. They turned to see Mike walking toward them, a broad grin on his face. "They approved it," he said. "Unanimously." Relief washed over Leo. He glanced at Zara, who gave a small, satisfied nod. "It seems we have succeeded," she said simply. "Yeah," Leo replied, smiling. We did. As the team rejoined the council members, the mood was celebratory. The joint project had been officially greenlit, and plans were already being discussed for further collaboration. For the first time, humans and Zolthers stood side by side, not as captors and captives, not as adversaries, but as partners. Later that evening, as the Earth skyline sparkled in the distance, Leo and Zara found a quiet corner aboard the flagship. The others were celebrating, but the two of them needed a moment of calm. "This isn't the end," Zara said. "It is only the beginning." Leo nodded. "Yeah, we've got a lot of work ahead, but at least now we know we can do it together." Zara's metallic features softened into something resembling a smile. Together, they sat in silence for a while, watching the lights of Earth twinkle like stars, each one a reminder of the new path they had forged. The challenges ahead were certain to be many, but for now, they allowed themselves a brief moment of peace. Two individuals from different worlds, finding common ground.